One of the easiest ways to propagate cuttings is by propagating them in water. You simply take a jar, fill it with water, and plop your cutting in. But as easy as it can be, there are times that it doesn't work, and with this video, I'm going to help you fix that. I'll share with you some tried and true steps to help you successfully propagate your plants in water. These are the same tips I've learned throughout my 30+ years growing my own collection at home, combined with over 30 years of experience as a professional grower and consultant to some of the best professional houseplant growers in the industry. Stick around to the end because the last couple tips are probably the reason you're struggling with propagation in general. And if after this video you're still having trouble, drop a comment. I'm here to help. Okay, so the first tip I want to share with you is to only water propagate cuttings from healthy, disease-free plants. While this might seem like common sense, it's a mistake many new plant owners and even some seasoned growers make. When you take a cutting from a plant that's stressed, infested with pests, or dealing with a nutrient deficiency, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. You may wonder why your cutting didn't root, or worse, why it rooted but didn't thrive once it was in the water. Sure, there may be an occasional lucky exception, but the reality is that a healthy cutting from a healthy plant will always give you a far better chance at success. And this leads us to the next tip, and that is choosing the right time to propagate. And the best time to take cuttings for propagation is during your plant's active growing season. During this time, plants are the healthiest and the cutting will be more likely to root quickly. Another tip I want to share with you, if you're taking cuttings from a plant that has a tendency to quickly dry out and go limp when removed from the mother plant, I'm thinking something like a pothos or even most philodendrons. If you're not going to propagate your cutting immediately, you need to make sure it doesn't dry out while it's waiting to be propagated. Let's say you're picking up a cutting from a friend, or just need to wait until later in the day to start the process. Wrap it in a moist napkin and place it in a plastic baggie. This will help maintain the cutting's moisture and prevent it from wilting before you can propagate it. Always use sharp, clean tools when making your cuts. Whether you're using scissors, pruning shears, or even a sharp razor blade, a clean, precise cut ensures minimal damage to both the mother plant and the cutting. The cleaner the cut, the better the chances of the cutting rooting effectively. And another important step is to sterilize your tools before making cuts on a different plant. This is crucial for preventing the spread of disease between your plants. The way I do it is by just grabbing my pruners, spraying them down with rubbing alcohol, and rubbing off the excess alcohol before use. It's a quick and easy way to protect your plants and keep them healthy. Choosing the right cutting is where propagation success begins, so we need to get that right. For most plants, you'll want a stem that's 3 to 6 inches long, but with vining plants like pothos, you can often use single node cuttings. This approach gives you the flexibility to create either many small plants or one lush full plant. It's a win-win situation depending on the look you're going for. Now, when you're taking cuttings, always consider the plant you're cutting from. The mother plant deserves some love too, and you don't want to leave her off balance. So for example, if you're taking a cutting from, let's say, a ZZ plant and only need one cutting, pick one that won't disrupt the overall look of the plant. If you're propagating something like a philodendron and taking multiple cuttings, try to prune strategically. Aim to leave the mother plant with a rounded, uniform shape so it's not just healthy, but still beautiful to look at. Now, once you've got your cutting set up for propagation, it's time to think about lighting. One of the most critical factors for success. Place your cuttings in bright, indirect light. This could be near a sunny window where the light is filtered by a sheer curtain, or under grow lights. Bright indirect light provides the energy your cuttings need to grow roots without causing stress. Avoid direct sunlight at all costs. It's far too intense for these delicate cuttings and can scorch their tender leaves, effectively drying them out before they even have a chance to root. If you're using grow lights, make sure they're positioned 6 to 12 inches above the cuttings and run them for about 12 to 14 hours a day. This mimics the gentle, consistent light plants love without overexposing them. And always keep an eye on temperature. Cuttings thrive in warm environments, so aim for a cozy spot between 65 and 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Proper lighting and warmth create the perfect conditions for your cuttings to thrive and eventually transform into beautiful rooted plants. While you're growing your cuttings out, keep the water fresh. Every 5 days or so, check your jars and either top them off with fresh room temperature water or do a full water change if it starts to look murky, which will more than likely eventually lead to algae growth, which will compete with your cutting for oxygen and nutrients. To help keep algae down, what I do is add a small amount of hydrogen peroxide about 1 teaspoon per cup of water whenever you refill the jars. This simple step keeps the water clear for longer and creates a healthier environment for your plants. Patience is key with anything plant related. I guess that's why it's so relaxing. But before you know it, you'll start to see those tiny roots poking out of the stem. Once the roots have had about a week to establish themselves, it's time to give your cuttings a little fertilizer to keep your cuttings growing. Here's how I do it. When I'm fertilizing my other plants, I mix up my regular fertilizer solution, and then I use that same solution to top off the water in my propagation jars. It's quick, easy, and gives my water-grown cuttings all the nutrition they need to grow. Okay, so you've waited long enough for what I've found to be the main reasons most cuttings don't propagate when placed in water or really even in soil. And the first most important thing to remember is to always make your cut just below a node. If you're not familiar with what a node is, it's this part here on the stem where the petiole is attached to the stem. Once you've identified the right spot, make your cut just below the node to give the cutting the best chance for rooting. And after that, you'll want to remove most of the leaves from the lower part of the stem and leave a few leaves at the top. Those are the ones that will help the cutting gather energy through photosynthesis. By removing the lower leaves, you're allowing the plant to focus all its energy on growing roots rather than maintaining those extra leaves. This can make a huge difference in how quickly and successfully your cuttings root. In regards to letting your cuttings sit for a few hours or even days to allow them to callus over, I can tell you personally and professionally that I do not do it, and I've had success doing it this way. There may be some varieties that prefer to let the wound callus over, but I haven't seen that preference on anything that I've propagated. If your cutting doesn't root, it's probably for another reason, and one that I'll be talking about in a minute. For some plants, you don't even need a stem. Just a single leaf can get the job done. Plants like ZZ plants and Sansevierias are prime candidates for leaf propagation. When taking a leaf cutting, make sure you're working with a healthy, plump leaf, as this will provide the energy needed to form roots and eventually new growth. For succulents like the ZZ plant, cut or gently twist the leaf off at the base, ensuring you get a clean break. You can then place the leaf in water with the bottom of the leaf sitting in the water. Then be patient and watch them grow. If you want to know exactly how I do this, I put a link in the description to my other video that goes into detail, step by step on this process. Now that we know how to prepare our cuttings, let's talk about how it should live in the container while we're waiting for it to root and thereafter. And the most important thing to keep in mind is that we need to always make sure the bottom node of our cutting stays submerged in water. If it's not submerged, then the likelihood that the cutting will fail is high. The way I like to fill my containers to prevent this from happening is that I fill my containers so that the water level is at least an inch above the node. This little buffer gives me extra time between water changes and ensures the node doesn't accidentally dry out. And don't forget, if your water level dips too low, it's not just the roots that suffer. The cutting itself can become stressed, slowing down your propagation progress or killing the cutting altogether. And this goes for all plants, including the prized and sought after Monstera, which in this next video you can learn all you need to know to propagate them in water or soil, along with the proper soil placement they require to thrive.